Good evening, everyone. It's now the halfway point of GT3 Sprint Series 3, Season 3 here on Sim Racing Hub International TV. Welcome to Circuit Zolder, originally opened back in 1963, formerly known as Circuit Terlamen. And in actual fact, myself in real life terms, was actually just under 30 kilometres east of that circuit this past weekend on real life commentary duties. Welcome to you all, and good evening. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. You probably already know me, and of course my friend on not just co-commentary but broadcast cameras as always. Good evening to the one, the only Mr. Steve Proudley. Good evening, Steve. How are you, buddy?
Good evening, Alex. Yeah, I'm very, very well. And as always, with the SRHI events, looking forward to some fantastic racing this evening, coming off the back of a fantastic GT4 battle last week, and obviously Sem's win at Barcelona at the last round of the GT3s. Zolder, what a circuit. Difficult track, tight track, difficult to overtake. Not really a track where the faster cars can stretch their legs, so it's going to be some close battling tonight, and I think that's going to lend itself well to these drivers, because we've seen in the past races they do like to battle hard.
Indeed, and this particular circuit, it's not about straight line speed, it is about grunt, it's torque coming out of the corners, and also it is about agility. Now, I'll briefly just go through the top three. Now, based on the current results at the moment, 3 wins and a second for George Boothby so far this season puts the Brit at the top of the timesheets. Sem Spenkelink won a fantastic battle. He was battling away with the likes of George Boothby, Niels van der Kerkhout, who finished 7th in that race. James Warren from PPR Esports rounded out the top 3. In semi-pro, I think one of the most standout performances this season by Giorgio Raimondi in the Ferrari. He literally went to town and he gave everyone up front something to think about and finished way up the order. I think it was in the lower half of the top 10. A fantastic drive by the Italian. Michael Hartmann and Benjamin Simmers rounded out the top 3 positions. But interestingly enough, Steve, for free practice, which we've just sort of been keeping our eyes on the live timing on, Niels van der Kerkhout looking rather strong here. Now, between him and George Boothby, they were both like literally on the cusp of the 1 minute 27 second barrier, but with about a minute to go, van der Kerkhout, Mr. 47 himself, went and put in a 1 minute 26.945, and Boothby a tenth and a half behind. But up until that point, they were like literally within thousandths of a second of each other. I think it was like 12 one thousandths. So the Ferrari's looking rather strong here. And obviously, this track, one of the more famous teams in endurance and sports car racing to come out of Belgium, is actually Team WRT. So you would expect that the Audi might have a little bit of credence here as well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. But as ever, I mean, it's all about consistency, and being consistent around Zolder. I would say it's arguably one of the hardest tracks to be consistent at, because, you know, there's some nasty curbs in there. The Kleiner chicane, we were talking off air just before a few minutes ago, and you know, just hitting those curbs wrong can have the car facing in the wrong direction quicker than you can say opposite lock. And then you've got track limits to worry about. You know, the Villeneuve chicane amongst one place where it's easy to run wide, just to be a little bit greedy and take a bit too much curb and you know, get those track cut warnings. So don't be surprised to see some drive-throughs tonight. But the chaps are out on track now. They are just doing their first flying laps, and I'm just going to go over to van der Kerkhout, who is one of the first drivers that's going to put a time on the board. So it'll be very interesting to see what he can do as he's coming round now to complete his first flying lap. And it has to be said, he's been followed very closely by George Boothby as well. So they're not messing about. They're straight out there in what is a 30-minute session, but they're not wasting a single minute. It looks like Kerkhout's first lap must have been dirty because he hasn't set a time, but Boothby has, and he's into those 27s straight away, albeit with a 1:27.4. So putting a benchmark out there, Boothby already. 26 minutes left, but he's already setting the pace.
Yeah, and also sporting a new livery by the looks of things, because that car used to be very, very dark black last time out. But Boothby, 1 minute 27.468. Matas Marques was actually looking rather quick in free practice. He's gone P2 provisionally with a 1:28.131. Then it's Simon Zimmerman in the number 21, and the German driver from GPR Esports. He's showing very good credence, as was George Boothby. There is Zimmerman. Like the term on the name, Science Friction Racing. These drivers do come up with very, very good teammates, and already Chris Hill rounding out the top 20 in the number 7 Honda NSX. But obviously we've got semi-pro and pro, and at this particular moment in time, Jordi Barker is leading the way. Raimondi down in 13th, so Jordi Barker rounding out the top 5 behind Aaron van Droonen, as Koen Septer in the 32 Audi shows the 4 rings of Ingolstadt is not going to be trifled with this evening. Up into P4, Michiel Hartmann, second in semi-pro, last time out 2 weeks ago at Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona. Now jumps up into, well, that was he jumps up into P6 as Boothby gets to within 60 thousandths of that 1 minute 27 barrier. Van der Kerkelt just 63 thousandths of a drift. And then you look at where Matas Marques is, Steve. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. He's actually over a second slower in that Lexus. I mean, Boothby and Van der Kerkelt have got this Ferrari hooked up here at Zolder at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the boys that are always setting the pace week after week. You know, hot lap pace is good, but as Sem Spenkeling showed at Barcelona, you know, he's got the longevity, he's got the consistency, and he came out on top there. So he's currently down in 22nd as we're on board with him now for a flying lap of Zolder. And you can see him just wrestling the Porsche, trying to stay within those track limits and trying to get that perfect line to allow that maximum throttle, maximum attack now, as he's coming down to what is the tightest corner on this circuit. Nice tight apex as he turns in there, looking to get on the power as tidily but as quickly as possible to maximise the acceleration now as he's coming up towards the final chicane before he hits the start-finish straight again and sets his time.
Yeah, so through the Jackie X Bocht. Bocht is actually Flemish or Dutch for corner. Across the line goes P8, 1.3 seconds off, 1 minute 28.392. So obviously the practice times being shown by Sem Spankelink. Obviously he was running down in P17. Brief yellow flag actually out on the circuit. But I'm just going to keep my eyes on the likes of Boothby, Van der Kerkelt, as there's Michiel Hartmann in the number 84 Audi, currently rounding out the top 12. And we've got another Audi up into the top 10, Pifanyer in the number 34. And he's actually one of the semi-pro drivers. So there's Simon Zimmerman. Just 0.8.
I was going to say, he's just popped that lap in, Alex. He's gone up from around about 11th place up to 3rd on that lap. So he's that was a great lap from him. I think he improved by about 6/10. So good lap from Zimmerman.
Yeah, not only did he improve, but Jordi Barker. You've also got Bart Svierink, Tim Muris have all gotten ahead of Matas Marques. So the top 7 overall. That has 2 semi-pro drivers in there. I thought that might be the case because with the likes of Jordi Barker and Bart Svierink, you know, those drivers know their way around this circuit. And also, when you look at the nationalities of the drivers in this, you know, we have a lot of Dutch, we have a lot of... we do have the odd occasional Belgian driver as well in there. So, very much the case. Please excuse the dog in the background because someone's just rang the doorbell. Always happens on racing commentary.
Real world.
Hashtag real world problems.
Yeah, Marques though he's hustling that Lexus around. He's not happy with being down in 7th, and I think he's going to improve if that was a clean lap, and he does indeed. He goes 3rd, but he's still 7/10 off that provisional pole time of Boothby. And as we saw in practice, Alex, Boothby and Kerkelt absolutely had nothing to divide them. If you took a photo of those two crossing the line, you would have to study the picture to see that time differential.
You definitely would, but one of the things that I am noticing, and this is something that I had to keep an eye on all the way through last weekend at Karting Genk, the wind is up. It's about 3 miles an hour, 5 kph. The track is showing optimum. The air and track temperature are exactly the same on 11 degrees Celsius, but the biggest thing that I see in the skies are very, very dark clouds.
Yeah, absolutely, and the dark clouds are obviously shielding that sun, which is keeping the temperatures down with 11 degrees air temp and track temp tonight. It's it's not ideal, I don't think, for the tyres. The guys maybe they'll allow for it in the setup, so I don't think we'll see anyone having any problems. But I don't think we will see maybe the quickest possible laps tonight. But we're looking at Cox at the moment, who's in 14th place, and he is currently 6/10 up on his previous best time. So this could catapult him right up into the top 6 if he maintains this, and if it is a clean lap. It looks like he's going for that line, and indeed he does, and he goes 5th fastest. So if you take the top 2 out of it, Alex, they're all very close following behind. You've got that 6/10 gap to 3rd place, but then from 3rd down to 11th, that is all within pretty more or less half a second.
You know what the other interesting thing is, obviously Niall Cox, his teammate to Sem Spenkelink. Sem Spenkelink all the way down in 15th and has yet to set another lap. There's Adam van Drooyen from Prome Simrig Racing, the number 24 Mercedes. Not looking too shabby around here is the Evo. He's currently running at the top 10, who are covered by, well, you look at the top 11, which is rounded out by Patrick Vance. 3 semi-pro drivers in the top 11, which is covered by just 10 thousandths shy of a second. And we know for a fact, I mean, there's always that lovely saying I like to mention, it's time for show, points are to go. I think it's going to be about times are going to be, rather than saying that, I'm going to say this. Times are rather important in terms of where you need to be on the grid to start racing, because qualifying is ultra important this evening here at Zolder.
It is absolutely important. It is crucial. As we said right at the beginning, this is a busy track. It's difficult to overtake. It's difficult to make your opportunities. Barring errors from other drivers. But what is difficult, as we can see on screen now in this qualifying session, is getting some clear air. We have, correct me please, Alex, we've got 30 odd cars on track. So trying to find your little bit of retail space to get that perfect lap in without relying on the guy in front not making a mistake, because that will just totally wreck your lap. It's difficult. I mean, look at this. The car's a line astern, so it's very, very difficult to find that space to get your lap, as we see now. Van Drooyen closing right up on the back of that Porsche, and that's cost him. This lap is pretty much out the window for him there almost.
Yeah, but the warning shot that was fired by Niels van der Kerkhout has well and truly been answered. Boothby now into the 126s, a 126.937, and what's even more impressive, that is 8 1,000ths quicker than van der Kerkhout's lap time at the end of free practice, as we've got one of the Audis that has actually caused the yellow flag incursion here at the circuit. So let's stick with Boothby for the next couple of moments or so. He's going to be making his way down probably into the, let's just see where this corner leads to. This will probably be, yep, that's through Bolderberg and then through Jochen Rindt before the run down to Jackie Ixbocht. Of course, Jackie Ix, 6-time 24 Heures du Mans winner, only usurped by the great Dane that is Mr. Tom Christensen, who isn't shy in getting behind the wheel of another car, whether it be an LMP1, whether it be a touring car, and giving it the berries. Even at his age, he's still got it. And but Boothby at the moment showcasing. So his last lap was 1 minute 30.5. Oh, and straight lines it and decides, yep, I'm just gonna hit RTG, return to garage. But at the moment, I think now you're seeing that Simon Zimmerman is actually starting to chip away at that gap between him and not just Van der Kerkhout but also Boothby. So this Nissan, and let's be honest here, Steve, Zimmerman is actually the only Nissan on this grid, and being P3 is going to give him an absolutely brilliant opportunity to get a really good result, because Zimmerman hasn't had the run of luck like some of the drivers have had this season so far, and Zolder here is the halfway point out of 9 races.
Yeah, but I mean, what Zimmerman has shown us, as a few of these drivers, quite a lot of these drivers have shown us, is the spirit of competition at SRHI. Is the fact that we've seen Simon have a couple of incidents at the start, not always his fault, and that have pushed him back down the grid, but he's still there at the end. Very much like Sem Spenklik, he will battle through adversity, he will stay on the track, he knows it's not over till the checkered flag falls, and points make prizes. They're there for the championship. It's not just about this one race. Yes, let's take some glory if you can get on the podium, but it's all about bagging the points, and what might not be a good race for you, if you can score points, may well count towards that championship challenge at the end. Has to be said. As we are, cracking on with this championship, Boothby is a force to be reckoned with. He doesn't seem to be able to do much wrong, but we have seen, championship challenges crumble when drivers have had fantastic starts. They can be set by bad luck, and I'm not wanting that, but it'd be nice to see someone take the battle to Boothby again, as Sem did at the last round. And Boothby didn't have the best qualifying, it has to be said, at Barcelona. He tends to be one of those drivers that if he can get it on the front row, he will get away, and once he gets away, he's a very, very difficult man not only to stay with, but to challenge. So it's all about trying to keep hold of George Boothby. But yeah, Zimmerman, it'd be good to see him stay up there in the top 3 or 4 for qualifying, and hopefully he'll have a good start to it, as we're just watching Mr. Bakker in 7th place at the moment, just over 9.5 tenths off the provisional pole time. That's just showing you again what sort of a time Boothby's managed to set there, that 7th place is nearly a second off him, which is pretty impressive, it has to be said.
And also the other thing here, Steve, is that the Lexus is looking rather handy here as well. 4 in the top 10, and that's being led by the number 20 of Slovakia's Matas Marques from Mode 11 Racing in the number 20. You then got Jordi Bakker, Yannick Valenduk in the 301 Lamborghini is one of the Lexuses decides. That looks to be Bart Svering in the number 12 that has had an off-track excursion going through the Kleine Schikane. Tim Muris, again, another one that we don't get. I think he has really good runs in qualifying, and I don't think it's down to him. I think it's just sometimes it's always down to the situation that might present itself in front of certain drivers, that if you're in the mid-pack, and when we've got 38 cars from varying different manufacturers in this, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that, and it's always the same in any kind of race category, especially when you've got a dual file side-by-side rolling start. And I had 31 of them to deal with last weekend, not including full starts, I might add. I think we had 5 over the course of the weekend. So 31 good starts, 5 shockingly bad starts. Well, I could say a 4-letter word that begins with S and ends in T and has an H and an I in the middle, but it's not really sayable at this particular moment in time, because we're before the watershed here in the United Kingdom, and I don't want to incur the wrath of anybody. But you all get what I'm saying, that they were shockingly bad starts. And sometimes when you're in the mid-pack, and I saw it multiple times at Genk this past weekend, that if you're sort of, in that mid-pack, where it's sort of like between the bottom part of the top 10 or after the bottom part of the top 10 and then down to around P25, something goes wrong in that start and you're in the middle of it, you are holding on for dear life, and you're wishing that you don't have any new underwear requirements after turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1, well, I think at Zolder, I think it's not just about turn 1, is it? Because it's not a terrible turn 1, isn't Zolder? It's a nice wide, relatively quick sort of third gear corner. It's all about going through turn 2 and 3, that whole complex from the start, until you probably get past the Kleine Schikane, and for the first time, because I think that chicane really bottlenecks them up the first time round. So it's you've sort of got heart in mouth really around this track on the first lap for probably nearly half the lap, to be fair, where before you can really start to maybe think, I've got a little bit of space here, or we're falling into line. It's a difficult one to get a good clean start, and I think it's going to be a busy start from these guys, as there'll be a lot of jostling for position. We've seen some good hard racing in the past, always pretty fair. And I don't think the stewards ever have too much to do. There's a few incidents here and there, but the guys aren't afraid to get their elbows out. As we see Sem just hitting that chicane as we talked about earlier, and it just thrown him off there into the gravel trap and ended what was a flying lap for Sem. But I think they're going to be holding their breath and really concentrating, and rather than getting their elbows out on that first half lap, they're just going to be focusing on trying to keep their piece of tarmac and keep the car in the right direction and not rubbing doors too hard.
Well, Steve, you might need to hold your breath when I give you some breaking news. Niels van der Kerkelt has got to within 9 1/1000ths of George Boothby.
Watch this.
So Boothby now knows.
And Boothby goes faster, that's why I said watch this. He was 4/10ths up.
You know what? I tell Steve to hold his breath, and then I instantly hold mine with like this little yelp of like, oh!
You said that to me, my friend, and I instantly looked at the timing screen at Boothby's name, and I saw it was green 4/10ths, and I thought, wow, okay, Alex, stop talking. He's gonna prove us both wrong.
That was a Steve proudly hold my beer, Mr. Goldschmidt moment, wasn't it, right there and then?
Absolutely, buddy. But that's just George Boothby, what a driver. He put pressure on him, and he brings it. He really brings out that A game. 26.5, 4/10ths faster than Kerkelt. What can Kerkelt do? Can he do anything at the moment? He's not up on his time, so this isn't the lap for him unless all of a sudden he's going to find a corner where he has lost half a second. But it's all about the tenths and individual corners when you're chasing those sort of times. But that must be a near perfect lap for Boothby. Zimmerman in third place, a whole second off that provisional pole. I mean, that it's just quality, isn't it? Boothby's just really. I think he's parked in the pits now, and he probably won't see him back out in the last 10 minutes. He's probably gone for a beer himself.
Hopefully, it's a non-alcoholic one, because now Niels van der Kerkelt has started flashing the lights. But one of the other things is that those clouds are looking ever darker, and the time is actually showing to current Central European summertime, 8:21 on the server. The track temperature has dropped by a single solitary degree, as has the air. The track is now rubbered in, it's up to optimum, and that's why Boothby was able to set that lap time. But now it's down to van der Kerkelt, because he's got to find 4/10ths. I think, you can see now that he's weaving that car from side to side, trying to get the tyre pressures up and then go for a hot lap. And what I'd like to see is if we can go on board from the driver's cockpit. Let's go on a hot lap here in qualifying with Niels van der Kerkelt, Mr. 47. As we're now going to head into Erster. Tight apex on the left-hander, second gear. Now he's going to probably pull fourth before the Stellenbach block, which he does. Drops back down to second, carries the momentum through, and allows the Ferrari to drift wide as he actually goes up third in the run through Canal, and then through into Canal he actually goes up into fourth before dropping back to third. Now he might be able to get a little bit of a slipstream here, or a little bit of a toe going into the Kleine Chicane, but as Steve mentioned earlier on, you've got to watch these curbs. And that was a pretty good run through there on the back of the Nissan. Gets a really good run now going through into Sacrament Schelling before Buta, and then it's the heavy braking zone here for the Villeneuve chicane, using as much curb as he dares without going and getting any sort of track cut. A little bit of correction going through the exit as they head into Terlamen. Now there's just a few more corners remaining, and van der Kerkelt, if he can get below that 1 minute 26.547, I know for a fact that Boothby will be straight out of the pits. And you can just see that he's again, he's not weaving too massively there, going down that straightaway into the Jackie X-Bocht. He'll come out of the final corner and now put the power down, going across the finish line. What's the time for Mr. 47? Niels van der Kerkelt. Oh, that was a 1:27.5. I think probably with the fluorescent green Nissan that was ahead of him, I think that might have caught him out a little bit, and then that's caused him a bit of time. You said about it earlier, Steve, if you've got track position, and you've got clean air, that actually helps you with your lap time around here at Zolder. Whereas if you've got a car in front, it can actually cause you a problem in terms of, yeah, you might get the run of momentum going through down the straightaway through into the Kleine Chicane, but you can get caught out rather easily.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're spot on there, Alex. Fantastic hot lap commentary there from you. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, the minute I was watching the relatives for the whole of the lap, and the second that he caught up to that car before the chicane, he instantly he went a tenth down on his personal best, and from there there was sort of no recovery. He kept losing a little bit of time here and there. He sort of lost the momentum with the lap, and he sort of backed out of it towards the end. But he's on a hot lap again now. He's a tenth down, so it would tell you that Kekel's, he's possibly done his best time, and he's not going to be able to match Boothby. But with just under 6 minutes left, never say never. It's a relatively sort of short lap time round here. They can, he's got time for a good handful of laps if he's got the fuel on board. So he's going to keep pushing, I would say, as he crosses the line on this one, and it won't be an improvement. And indeed, it's about 3/10 off his previous best. So he's trying, he's still trying, and there's not many people on track at this moment in time that are improving. There's a few that are close, but there's not many that are improving. I think we've seen the best of most. This gentleman in the Lamborghini is around about a tenth up at the moment, but then he's got into traffic again, and I can see on the relatives the time is just drifting away from him. So again, he's had to back out of the lap, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? On these tight, twisty tracks, it's about not just about outright pace. It's about your traffic management. About picking your spot, trying to work it so that you've got an area to basically get the best out of the car.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Christian Malcharek, who that driver is, has actually competed in the Blancpain GT series. He's also raced in Formula Renault, so he will know these tracks very, very well indeed. He was up into the top 5 earlier on, as I have seen that Mr. Boothby, Steve, has decided, well, I do want to have a little bit more fun here in qualifying, so I think watch this space if Boothby can annihilate the 1 minute 26.5 second barrier, because both he and Niels van der Kekhout have done it in qualifying reference to 127s. If Boothby, as now van der Kekhout has actually improved, he's put in a 1 minute 26.922 with just over 4 minutes on the clock remaining. I think Boothby's still got time in that car. Is he going to showcase that? We're about to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got Boothby on the main screen, we've got Kekelt in the picture-in-picture at the bottom there, just to see what these guys can do, and we're focusing on these guys because actually focusing on these guys as Kekelt's parking it. I think either he's calling it a day or he's maybe not got enough fuel to run around, but focusing on these guys because you can see from the times this is where the battle is for pole position. Some fantastic times from all the other guys down the field, very, very respectable, and you can tell that by just looking at them and seeing how close they are together. As Boothby makes an uncharacteristic mistake there and just costs himself some time, so he's not going to improve on this lap. But looking down my timing screen of relatives, there are very, very few people with any green in their times. They're all pretty much either equal in the times I've already set, or they're just they're not quite as quick. So I think we're almost going to say at the moment we're qualifying is where it is at. This is it. Boothby, Kekelt and Cox are your top 3, I think, Alex.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Senard Cox up there, one of the 2 drivers from Dark Sky Racing, teammate Sem Spenkelink, the winner last time out at round 4 at Barcelona 2 weeks ago, all the way down in 15th position. And Boothby now is about to go across the start-finish line here at Zolder, and he puts. So that was a little bit of a warm-up for Boothby. Now he can actually put 2 hot laps in. If he gets the chances in the picture-in-picture, you can see the number 47, Niels van der Kekhout. So we'll see how he gets on, because he's now making his way through towards and he's going to now start a hot lap. So I think the bare-knuckle fisticuffs might start here in qualifying, but then we've got the race to look forward to, Steve. A 1-hour race here at Zolder with the mandatory pit stop for all competitors.
Yeah, just see Boothby again making an uncharacteristic mistake, and he's just gone off there into the barrier. So I think that's probably going to be the end of his qualifying. I don't think he's got enough time realistically to get out, although he is going back out, he is trying, so he's not resting on those laurels just yet. I can see on one of my screens he is actually exiting the pits to come out and try and get around for one last flight, what will be one last flying lap. He's going to be tight, but I think he should do it. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. We've got the front row at the moment of Boothby and Kekel. I can't see that changing unless somebody really has been sandbagging and surprises us. But we've got Cox and Zimmerman, and it just takes for one or two of those guys, to sort of get in between them, or in fact get ahead of them at the start. And Zolder is a difficult track to overtake on. It's going to be very, very tight. It's if you start driving defensively around here, making your car as wide as possible, it's virtually impossible to get an overtake on them, because it's just the nature of the track. It's very, very difficult. But having said that, it's very easy to make a mistake, and it's a track where if you're behind someone and you're applying pressure, it's easy to get them to make a mistake. So if you're in front, I hope you can soak up some pressure. It's going to be a really, really good race tonight. I can feel it in my Yorkshire water.
That's one way of putting it, Mr. Proudly. We're coming into the last 30 seconds. Niels van der Kekel in the number 47 Ferrari crosses the line, 1 minute 29.3. I think that's basically it, done and dusted. And out of the top 14, the top 15, who were rounded out by Sem Spenkelink, okay, 5 of them are in semi-pro. That's a third of the top 15 out of the semi-pro classification, and that ends qualifying. And this round sees that George Boothby, with a 1 minute 26.547 second lap time around this 4.011 kilometer circuit, just a shade under 2.5 miles. I think Boothby, he didn't really need you to go out, but were the mind games happening there, Steve? That's the biggest crux, because if Van der Kekel didn't have Boothby out on track, and Van der Kekel had room on that circuit to push like crazy, I think we might have seen a different situation, couldn't we? Because we're halfway through the season. Boothby's leading by a country mile ahead of everyone else, with Van der Kekel his nearest competitor, but with 3 wins and a second. I think Boothby, this is his championship to lose, and he's going to do everything that is legally possible, I might add, to keep it in that sort of way here at Zolder tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's his championship to lose, and here's another one to throw into the thinking pot. When he's got sort of, I think we had just under 10 minutes left in quali when I said he doesn't really need to go out and do anything else because he set that astonishing time of a 26.5. He might have just spent the last 10 minutes, for all we know, with the race fuel on, getting accustomed to how the car's going to feel once they get things going, with the race, which when everybody else is still trying to beat your time, match your time, it puts them at a disadvantage. He may now be on the grid, having done half a dozen or so laps with race fuel on already, just got himself bedded in, accustomed to the braking zones and the rest of it.
Yeah, so we are waiting for things to get underway here at Circuit Zolder. It's round 5 out of 9 for Season 3 of the GT3 Sprint Championship here on Sim Racing Hub International TV with Alex Goldschmidt and Steve Proudly, your official commentators. Next week, we will have a bit of double bubble racing action, but not in the way you might think. Zolder will host the midway point of Season 2 of the GT4 Sprint Championship next Wednesday, with Steve being joined by Tim Fulbrook, looking rather dark and ominous, and we're going to go into the night here at Zolder. But also next week we have the Mixed Endurance Championship. The second event will be held at the place that the Zulus call my home in their native language. Kyalami will host the 8 hours on the 24th of April, which is next Saturday. So for the remaining rounds here on Season 3 of GT3 Sprint, we will have Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks' time, so it'll be a Belgian double header. Then we head to Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari at Imola on the 18th of May. Suzuka will host the penultimate round of Season 3 on the 15th of June. And then the Hungaroring will close out the pre-summer championship, that's Season 3, and that's on the 29th of June. But Steve, with the dark coming in, this has been given a new direction situation here, and also the clouds still looking rather dark out there. So dark tonight conditions, maybe a hint of rain in the air. Oh, this is looking rather exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and what a fantastic grid. You know, we've got all these cars out here all looking fantastic with the liveries on them. We've got some close times in qualifying. We've got the front two guys looking like they're going to battle closely. I think it's going to be an absolutely awesome battle tonight, and as you say, with the night time coming in, track temperatures are already down at 10 degrees, and it's only going to get colder, so it's it's all to watch and to play for tonight, and it's going to be very, very interesting, I feel.
Okay, cars being dropped off their jacks as we are seconds away for the formation lap for round 5 out of 9 for GT3 Sprint Season 3 here at Zolder, and leading them away will be the number 666 of George Boothby. Alongside him will be Niels van der Kekelt in the number 47. Then it's Nard Cox in the 35 Porsche from Dark Sky Racing. Simon Zimmerman in what is probably the best results that a Nissan has had in this championship so far, starts P4. Bart Sverink and Matas Marques are on row 3, with Sverink the highest of the semi-pro qualifiers. Tim Mures, then you've got Jordi Bakker, Adam van Drooinen and Christian Malsharek round out the top 10. Martin van der Kraan and Tom van der Meer, that's row 6. Row 7, Dennis Wagman and then Patrick Vance, both, those three that I've just mentioned, all semi-pros. Then we've got Yannick Valenduk, Sem Spenkelink, Dave Jr., Klaus Verster, Piet Vanyer, Koen Septer, Michael Hartmann, Wesley Janse, Sebastian Sorricino. Then we've got Xander Vale, Damian de Keizer, Giorgio Raimondi, all the way down in 27th. That's a far cry from the semi-pro winner from 2 weeks ago, down in 27th, and he is in the Audi. Anthony Terhorst, Benjamin Simmers, Ron Eiserif, and we've got Bas van Melis, Simon Pike, Patrick Treffers, another Nissan, but he's down in 33rd. Chris Hill in 34th, ahead of Joris Evelins, Frans van der Linden, Pascal Visa, and then Sebastian Slapek. That is the 19-row, 38-driver lineup here at Zolder. Steve, I'm not making any predictions tonight, but I think this is going to be one of the most intense, exciting, full-throttle, action-packed races so far. And with a Sidemax Motorworks front row, Boothby and Van der Kekelt, the two main title protagonists in this, anything can happen, and in motorsport, it most certainly will do at any point when it presents itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything can happen. The only prediction I would make tonight, very brave to make any sort of prediction, I think, with these guys in particular, because we know how close they do race. Sem Spenkelink will finish ahead of where he started tonight. That has got to be a disappointing qualifying for him. Down in 16th place, I expect Sem to come through the field with his consistency, and I think he'll be definitely on for a top 10 tonight.
Well, looks like we're about to get things underway. It's an all-Ferrari front row here on SRHI TV. Boothby, Van der Kekelt, they are ready, set and primed to go racing. So are we ready? Are we steady? Well, without further ado, let's go racing. We are green and underway, and it's a good start with Boothby, but Van der Kekelt trying to pull alongside, going into Asta for the first time. Boothby on this particular occasion keeps ahead. Nard Cox has got Simon Zimmerman trying to get past him as they head into the very next corner. Stedenbach blocked, and Zimmerman keeps now is trying to go ahead. Looks like Godzilla has claimed a scalp as Van der Kerkhout all over the back bumper of George Boothby, going through Canal as they now make their way through onto the main first straightaway on the way down to the Kleine Schikane. But that was one hell of a start by Simon Zimmerman to get past Nard Cox, and all of a sudden that is Matas Marques as Van der Kerkhout trying to plant it around the outside. He clashes wings with Boothby, and that is going through Sacrament-Schelling, coming out to the Kleine Schikane, and now Van der Kerkhout leading the way as they go through into Villeneuve for the first time. What an epic start by Van der Kerkhout there to get past Boothby. But more impressively, Steve, Simon Zimmerman showed a clean set of heels over to Nard Cox in the 35 from Dark Sky Racing.
Yeah, and it's looking like Cox is having a few issues as he's dropped way down the order at the moment. He's lost quite a few places at the start there, but yeah, the story of that start I think is Kerkhout just put some pressure on Boothby, and then when he got alongside Boothby showed that he wasn't afraid to stick his elbows out and just gave him a little bit of a nudge in the side to say I'm here, and I think Boothby was maybe just coming across a little bit as well. But the even bigger story is that Kerkhout's got a gap. He's not only got past Boothby, but he's extended a bit of gap, and Boothby's coming under pressure from Zimmerman, who had that amazing start as you said, and he's really now piling the pressure on, and he's climbing all over the back of Boothby, which is not something you say every week.
No, and Pascal Visa, I just noted, had a brief drive-through showing on the timing tower, but we're 2 minutes in. There is Nard Cox. He is all the way down, and it's not just him that struggled. His teammate Sem Spenkelink started 15th, now 22nd. And we're just over 2 minutes into this race. They've got Janse and Pike up ahead as Nard Cox, and then Cox has got the number 69 of Anthony Terholz just behind. So a lot of changes have happened. At the moment, the top 10 after one lap is Van der Kerkhout, Boothby, Zimmerman, Marques. There's Patrick Vance, who's now passed. Well, Malsharek is actually a little bit further. Well, Malsharek has actually moved up from P10 up to P7 and is closing down. So Malsharek is a very well versed individual in his own right when it comes to racing. The one of two Slovakians, the other one is Matas Marques, and Marques currently up into P4, having started 5th. So you can now see that everything's getting rather close and personal. But now the biggest situation change that is happening is that we are going into the nighttime sky as Patrick Vance, looking up the inside of Jordi Barker, thinks better of it going into Erster. As you can see, like the exhaust exit pipes on these cars are literally glowing red on the side skirts here under the Belgian evening sky. So some good performances already. Dave Jr. is already up into P10. Conceptor Arvin Nahm has absolutely catapulted his way up the field. He's already up into P10. But the biggest news is, as you said earlier on, Steve, after just one lap, well, it's now we're on to lap 3. Niels van der Kerkhout as all. Now here comes Malsharek round the outside at Sacrament-Schelling because of a massive mistake there going through into the Kleine Schikane. It's those curbs again that have started unsettling people. And now Vance is going to come under fire from Van der Klaan and Bergman, but Boothby's now starting to close that gap. I've just seen it drop, Steve, from 1.1 to 0.9.
Yeah, absolutely, George Boothby. The last lap times, though, they were very, very close, it has to be said. But Boothby's potentially putting on a bit of a charge. He's going to get settled in and he's going to get the heat into those tyres and get everything switched on. He's just giving himself a bit of a battle. Maybe he's wanting to make it a little bit harder for himself and just have some fun here as he's going to chase down Kerkhout. But we know from previous races, Kerkhout isn't the easiest man to overtake. He's not afraid to defend hard, fair but hard. He gets his elbows out, he puts the car where he needs it, and he will, try and defend within the rules and regulations. But Boothby, we know he's a quick driver. He qualified 4/10 faster than Kerkhout, but now he's put himself in that second place and he's given himself it all to do. But Zimmerman, okay, he's not hanging on to the shirt tails of these guys. There is a gap there now of 2.5 seconds, but more importantly, behind Zimmerman, is another gap of around about 2 seconds, well, more further back. He's extending a gap out to Marquez, who's in 4th place. So he's looking fairly safe in 3rd place at this moment in time. We are only 5.5 minutes into the race, but he's got himself in a position now where he can get his head down, focus on those guys in front, and just try to push, but push within his limits so he doesn't make mistakes.
I think there's one word, it begins with C and ends in Y. Consistency is what you mentioned earlier on. Now, one of the other things here, though, Steve, is depending on the strategy that the respective drivers have made, you know, I would imagine that possibly Simon Zimmerman might be deciding to go a little bit longer to get himself, you know, to just do that undercut. And that's what you know, the Nissan's not exactly the lightest car out of the grid. I mean, the Porsches, we know, are the heaviest cars on these grids. As there's Klaas Vester, you've got the likes of Bas van Melis, and there's a side-by-side moment. That's probably between, yeah, that's Van Melis and Sverink. Now Sverink, now this is where things have been rather interesting. Now, I did mention Bart Sverink earlier on, didn't I?
Yeah,
and he was P5 in quali, and now he's tumbled all the way down to P30. He's got Chris Hill breathing down his neck, and Chris Hill, that's Van Melis actually. So Sverink got past Van Melis, and so Van Melis coming under fire from Chris Hill. You can see by the very nice blue mirrors and blue wing end plates on that Honda NSX as they're now battling away over what is effectively 28th position. And that Nissan, looking rather handy in comparison with the Lexus, is now, you're going to see this will be, so this is Klaas Vester. Now that was a bit of a cheeky tag from behind there.
But was that moving in the braking zone almost? I think he took the line away from him a little bit if I put my steward head on. But it just no harm, no foul, though. It didn't seem to unsettle the Ferrari too much, and they're as they were. But yeah, definitely some close battles evolving up and down the field. And as we said, it's difficult to overtake around here, so it's all about applying that pressure. And talking about applying pressure, we've got Wanst under pressure now. I think Patrick's under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and that's from Martin van der Kraan in the 253. One of the many Dutch contingent on this. And they do love their racing, do the Dutch. I mean, especially when you look at who is currently racing in multiple different championships. You've got Max Verstappen in Formula 1. You've got Tom Coronel running in FIA WTCR and TCR Europe this year. He also likes to play at the Nürburgring Nordschleife whenever there's a 24-hour race. Is behind this battle, which has got Martin van der Kraan. You've also got Dave Jr. closing on the 444, and that's Dennis Bergman, one of the guys from Mode 11 Racing. So Dave Jr. looking to get rather up close and personal as we've got the picture-in-picture. That's Klaas Vester, who's got Bas van Melis trying to go alongside him, but it's not going to happen on that particular occasion. Dave Jr. got a real good run on Dennis Bergman there and nearly had the position. So Dave Jr. from the USA, this whole American driver in this field, also a regular on the sim grid, as are quite a few other drivers such as James Warren, Cody Pride, our top two as well, Niels van der Kerkhout and George Boothby amongst others. But you can just see how hard. Now that Mercedes, I think Dave Jr.'s got a real good car under him. You know, he's giving chase, he's using the grunt. I mean, out of all these cars, the ones that have got the most grunt coming out of the corners, the most torque, are the Ferraris and the McLarens. But then you look on this grid, Steve, you've got two Ferraris leading the way. It's Van der Kerkhout and Boothby, and then the next place car is Sebastian Slapek, who started 38th and is now up into 20th. You've then also got the number 18 car, and that's of Team Rocket, the fast Wesley Janssen. And that's Pascal Visa, I believe, that might, well, it seems like we're trying to, well, Chris Hill's in the pits, Tom van der Meer has been in the pits.
It seems like we may have a technical issue, so we'll just bear with us while we try and...
No worries, well, I'll keep an eye on things as they're happening, but I can see that George Boothby has just gone purple in the first sector at 29 .628. There are several cars. Well, looks like Alan van Drooinen. I'm just going to see where he is. He's in the pits. Sebastian Sorrentino is currently out on track. Also looks like Yannick Valenduk is also out on track. So it looks like Adam van Drooinen's race has come to an abrupt end on the very first lap of the race. Poor beggar, the number 24, Van Drooinen, had actually qualified in 9th place and ends up retiring. A bit very much not too dissimilar from Marcel V, who isn't able to make it this evening. Neither have a few other drivers. So we're already up to drivers being lapped as high up as 33rd position. But yeah, Adam van Drooinen, and I think is the first casualty. That's a real shame for him as we head back out on track, and Niels van der Kerkel has just over a 1.1 second advantage over George Boothby. Okay, yep, you were saying about Simon Zimmerman. I think probably that van der Kerkel and Boothby want to have their own mano a mano situation here, Steve. So I'm not at all surprised that Zimmerman might just be going for the long haul. I mean, he's lapping over a second slower than both van der Kerkel and Boothby at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, the Nissan for us, for myself as a commentator, it's a little bit of an unknown quantity, to be honest, because it's not the most widely picked car. So, you know, where we say that maybe the Bentley does favour going long with the pit stops, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen with that Nissan and how he's maybe going to try and, you know, prolong his strategy and maybe just stay out there a bit longer, or what he's got planned, or whether even has he got anything planned, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, the third place is a good finish tonight. It's a fantastic finish if he can bring that car home in third. And again, for the Nissan, which we don't always associate as the strongest car, that's would be an excellent result if he can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to. I'm not going to digress, but I'm going to give you a relative example. Talking about Nissans, I do some commentary on SimGrid, and the Nissan actually. We've got one particular team using the Nissan. I think it's Sasha Glatter and Chris Sever for Black Hawk Racing, and that car has been punching above its weight. There's Patrick Treffers, and now. He was the other Nissan I was talking about. He was right down into the latter part of the grid. You know, he was in the last 8 after qualifying. And again, he's just literally... And of all the people he's in front of, Steve, he's in front of Sem Spenkeling, because we've now got this wonderful picture-by-picture situation here. Thank you very much, Steve, as always. Your work is exemplary, my friend. But van der Kerkel is what? I mean, the gap's now down to just under 7/10, so Boothby is putting the hammer down in that Ferrari and is catching van der Kerkel.
Yeah, well, the reason I went to Treffers as well is because, like you say, he's made a lot of positions in that Nissan, but the other man that's he's not really made positions, he's just on a bit of a fight back after an earlier mistake, incident, whatever, as we just seen a car that was at the side of the track there causing a yellow flag, but Sem Spenkeling, he's up to 17th place, and he's putting pressure on Treffers at certain parts of the track, but on the left-hand picture now, definitely Boothby is hot under the collar, isn't he? He's pushing, and I think he's going to start applying some serious amounts of pressure to Kerkel. But what Kerkel may have in mind, he may not. I think if I was at Kerkel, what I would have in mind is just try to be consistent, try to drive my line, but then who's going to pit first, because that's where we've seen Boothby. I think the first race at the Nürburgring, it changed the pit stops there when Boothby basically went that bit longer, managed to get some clean air and put some hot laps in, and that's what Kerkel's got to do now, really. I would imagine he's potentially, unless they start running into a lot of traffic a little bit later on, I think he's got to stay out longer than Boothby and not allow Boothby that clear air to put those times in.
Well, the thing is, at the moment, Steve, just having a look on the track map, that van der Kerkel and Boothby are running within 0.2 of a second of each other, as Patrick Treffers has been passed by Sem Spenkeling. There's the pace that they're showing at the minute, I mean, Van der Kekelt has just been in 1 minute 27.777. He went purple in sector 1, and Boothby put in a 1:27.9. There was one car, I think, that has just ended up going off at the Kleine Schikane, possibly Sorrentino, which is the 1:56. Let's just double check that, which is the case. So, yeah, this now means, because that's why we've got a yellow flag out at the moment, that car is not moving anywhere, so everyone is not able to overtake. Otherwise, the first thing that will happen is now Boothby closing on Van der Kekelt as we approach the 16-minute mark of race time completed. And Boothby has just been winding up that Ferrari to volume number 11, and he's going for it. And now, this is where it's going to put on another dynamic, because I would think, Steve, just as a guesstimation, that Boothby will probably get past Van der Kekelt maybe in the next 2 to 3, maybe say 4 laps at the very latest. And then Van der Kekelt is going to have to really sort of plan what strategy he's going to put into place, because as we now go onto the front splitter cam, well, it's actually right in front of the radiator, the radiator on this Ferrari, but you can just see the amount of visibility that these drivers have. So you've got to use the headlights on the front of the vehicle, but also the rear brake, the LED brake lights on the car in front. And when you talk visibility, Steve, okay, there aren't the greatest amount of floodlights here at Zolder, but these drivers have spent hours upon hours upon hours getting the practice in and getting themselves ready for any particular championship where a track like this is involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys, they're on ACC or whatever sims they're driving, because some of them will drive multiple sims, but they are on pretty much every single day at some point, putting practice in. And you know, most of them will be racing most days as well, because the best practice is to race. You know, it's okay hot lapping, but unless you're up against somebody, it's never quite the same until you're in the heat of battle. But they will have their setups sorted. They'll have a full library of setups, shall we say, for different track temperatures, with different tyre pressures, different caster camber sort of settings, damper settings, you know, just a multitude of changes that they will be able to make. They're all very experienced drivers. They all know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to get the best out of these cars, as we've seen week after week with some of the battles we've seen, and especially with these two guys at the front as well. Van der Kekelt knows, like I say, he knows how to race, he knows how to attack, and he certainly knows how to defend. But Boothby also knows how to attack and how to defend, as we see him closing right up onto the back in the braking zones, but he's just nowhere near close enough. He can't just get within that final tenth or two of Kekelt at the right time to actually make a move, or to even show his nose to put that little bit of extra pressure on Kekelt. And all Kekelt has to do at this moment in time is keep driving those lines. He's not really defending at this point, it has to be said. He's driving his racing line, which is the fastest line, which is the right thing to do. He's not impeding his times. He's putting the lap times in. They're not in danger from third place either. Zimmerman's now dropped to just shy of 13 seconds back. A fantastic performance so far from Zimmerman, but all the same, he's just about 13 seconds behind these two. So they've got nothing to worry about from behind, so neither of them will want to make a silly mistake and risk anything at all. They just want to bring the cars home, but surely now they will keep battling. I think Boothby will just... He's thinking about putting the pressure on. He's going to keep the pressure on Kekelt as much as he can, but he will have in the back of his mind the pit strategy. He'll be wondering if he can do the undercut, or whether he can stay out longer than Kekelt. Who's going to blink first? Who's going to dive into the pits and just make that pit stop, and potentially that position could change.
I think the other thing that we have to consider here, Steve, is that if Van der Kekelt makes a mistake, an unforced error, then Boothby will be up the inside of him quicker than a rat up a drain pipe. But yeah, the strategy call with regards to the pits, you know, we've seen it before. I've seen it before in multiple leagues. I mean, obviously with SimSport Racing, SimGrid, I've seen races decided by pit stops. So that's where the key factor of what is going to change all this, what's going to change the equation, how the driver's going to react on the fly. And it's about who reacts the best out of everybody is the one that will take the spoils. As Dennis Werkman again is battling away. Now this battle has not, it's exacerbated. It hasn't sort of like fallen away, burnt away like like a little wick on a candle that's just about to run out when you've had it going for about 5 hours. This has just kept on. It's like a powder keg waiting to explode. And I'm wondering when is Dave Jr. going to pull the pin on the grenade and throw it in the general direction of Dennis Werkman and say, right, sunshine, I'm coming through. Well, it's not happening quite yet. And it looks like they will have Christian Malsharek not too far behind them. Oh, bit wide there from Werkman, as this is allowing Junior to go towards the outside. Now, if he gets the run through on the outside, going through into Erster, let's just see. This particular occasion, Dave Jr. doesn't have the momentum carry, but Werkman managing to hold off. Now, he's in the top 3 in semi-pro, which again, will actually, for the first time since the opening round of Season 3, which took place at the Nürburgring, Patrick Vonst won that one, and he's in top pegging at the moment because he's about 2.4 seconds ahead of Jordi Barker, but now you can see that Malsharek is closing in on Dave Jr., so that's the scrap for 8th, 9th and 10th. And Dennis Werkman at the moment has really impressed me. Another driver to have impressed me tonight here, Steve, that they just literally know that Zolder is this great equaliser. Forget the weather, it's dark, it's limited track surface area, and I've got a car that's pretty stable, not just in a straight line but on the twisty stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and you just see the different styles from the drivers, as we've seen Junior and Workman and Boothby and Kekel. Boothby is every bit as close to Kekel as Workman is, as Junior is to Workman. But as we see Workman diving into the pits there, so he's decided that he's going to make his pit stop and try and do the undercut. But what I was going to say is that Boothby, when he's close, he's not even shown his nose once as far as I've seen, unless I've missed it. He's just concentrating on staying on the back, keeping the pressure on, not losing any sort of time or track position, to Kekel, not risking anything. He's just following, but following very closely and applying the pressure. We've got people in the chat saying Boothby won't pass unless Kekel makes a mistake. It's all about the pits. I agree. I think it's going to be the pit stop. I think Boothby's just he's playing the long game. He's putting the pressure on Kekel. He's making Kekel think now. Kekel's the one that's going to have to call on the pit stops and also soak up the pressure at the same time, which is no easy task.
No, it never is, and when it rains it pours, but then the floodgates will royally open. Dave Jr. has pitted. He's gone in for his mandatory pit stop, having had that dynamic battle with Dennis Werkman and Christian Malsharek, so the American driver drops out of the top 20. So, and again, you're spot on with every bit of analysis this evening, Steve, but the biggest thing now is that Boothby and Van der Kekel are coming up amongst more back marker traffic, and up to 26 they've had a lap put down on them. So next up will be number 90, and that is Klaas Vester. And you've got Bart Sveding, who's made a couple more positions. As now Van der Kraan has decided to pit. Now he was in 11th position. He's going to drop outside of the top 15. So the pit stops now, Steve, starting to come in with just over 35.5 minutes left to go in the race. I wonder how long will both... I think I've got a slight feeling in my gut here that Van der Kekel and Boothby could be on a very similar sort of strategy, but one might have slightly underfueled more than the other, and the other one might decide to go for that little bit longer, couldn't they? There's no designated pit stop window, is there?
No, absolutely not. But I mean, I think what it's all about here is the fact that obviously, if you have fueled for, let's say, for example, you've fueled for 35 minutes, there's nothing to stop you stop pit stopping now. Stop early. You know, there's nothing to say you can't do that. It's all for me. It'll be all about who's put that little bit more in. And allowing themselves to go even longer if they want to allow themselves that clear air. But what that also does say is if they're carrying more, let's say for example Boothby is carrying more fuel than Kekelt right now, it's an even more impressive job that he's matching his times and putting the pressure on him like he is, because he's got a heavier car. So it's, you know, there's lots of connotations, there are you know, different twists and turns that could be taken. At the end of the day, the only two people that are in control is Kekelt and Boothby of those decisions for the pit stop, and I think we may see one, I don't know, within the next 5 minutes or so. I think we might see Kekelt do something, just going on previous races. Just another comment from a Facebook user, unfortunately it doesn't tell me who it is, but I have an idea. Always nice to hear the buttery voice with Alex's sharpness. Hello guys. So that's from the Facebook fan base. Just the one fan though, I think.
Oh well, you are.
I think the Alex's sharpness was a compliment as well, mate.
I've never heard the words sharpness and buttery in the same sentence all of a sudden. Well, whoever you are, that's definitely impressed me in terms of vocabulary skills right there and there. Goodness me. Right, Sem Spenkelink has come into the pit lane and he's going to drop outside of the top 20. Now, the thing is, Dave Jr. I've just noticed, as we just saw Slapek and that's Eisenleaf just... oh, and here comes Anthony Teos.
Pouncing.
You one out of... Oh my goodness me, Anthony Teos nearly tore them a new one there. Now there's been contact between Eisenleaf and Slapek. That's going to allow Anthony Teos to try and get past at a moment's notice. That could have been so much worse there and then.
Yeah, but I mean, Anthony Teos there, he was the pouncing panther in the Mercedes, wasn't he? He was almost ready just to take both positions if possible. I mean, that is opportunistic driving. Unfortunately, it didn't come off, but that's good racecraft, is that he sat there, he's applying the pressure, and he's waiting for that one mistake as he's trying to look up the inside there, but he doesn't need to, as the Ferrari heads to pit lane.
Oh well, there we go. That was ended rather unceremoniously there. Thank you, Sebastian Slapek. Yeah, I actually had a message from Aaron van Drooyen, and he said that Tom van der Meer missed his braking point. Aaron got 100 metres up the road and then decided, no, this car's too damaged. So that's how quickly your race can end. And unfortunately, Aaron van Drooyen didn't get past lap 1. That's a real shame for him. But into the deep of night, 9:34 p.m. More drivers coming into the pits. Malashirek in the pits, Slapek in the pits, amongst others. I count possibly at least 5 cars in pit lane at the moment. But at the minute, with just over 31.5 minutes still to go here, Steve, this race is anybody's.
Yeah, absolutely, it is anybody's, and Boothby we can see has just eased off the back of Kekelt a little bit. He's dropped to second behind if we're looking at the relatives, and in fact we'll do a bit more than look at the relatives, we'll look at the cars, and there you can see the gap has visibly grown. So whether Boothby's just you know, resting back a little bit, shall we say, just easing up, maybe he's been pushing the tyres a bit hard, putting the pressure on like he was, maybe, you know, he's getting past the point that they're getting a little bit of wear in them. I don't think so. At only 30 minutes, they should last a lot longer than that. Yeah, apparently Boothby nearly spun. I missed that, to be fair. Good save. So that's probably where the second's gone, and we'll see him coming back now at Van der Kekelt.
Yeah, oh, Jordi Bakker's just got a drive-through penalty. I think track limits are coming into play now, wouldn't you say, Steve?
Yeah, for sure. As we said again at the beginning, it's a difficult track with regards to track limits, because there's not many true straights on the track. There's a lot of twists and turns, there's a lot of elevation changes, there's a lot of very flat, inviting curbs which invite you to run over them. There's a lot of sort of corners that go on a little bit for, you know, almost forever, and you just eager to get that right foot planted, and just a little bit too eager sometimes can push you over that limit. And Adam Azalovic has come onto YouTube and says, "Lol, you can't see the name on Facebook posts. It was me." Hi to you all again. So hi Adam, good to have you along, buddy. And yes, you were my prime suspect. I did think it was you, buddy. Aaron Van Drunen says, yes, SH1T happens. He didn't do it on purpose, so no slack to Tom. So yeah, you know, Aaron's accepted the fact it was an accident. It's always sad to see a driver have to retire, but it's always good to have Aaron in the chat as well, because he's a funny guy.
Yeah, our relevant conversations before they got us to sort of broadcast and commentate on it. And to be honest with you, it's nice to be part, you know, with a lot of people. And there goes Van der Kelt. So it looks like Boothby. No, look, they've gone in at exactly the same time. Oh, now this is getting interesting. 31 minutes now completed, and both the leaders, Van der Kelt and Boothby, come in at exactly the same time. Now, the biggest conundrum here is that who is going to be filling up more than the other? Well, that's the key point.
Yeah, they're both a long way down the pit lane. I put it on split cameras just to try and give us an idea of you know, who's going to get away first, but they now have both reached their relative pit boxes, so we'll see what goes on now with tyre change and a bit of fuel probably, if indeed they do change the tyres. But I think it's mandatory in this one, isn't it, Alex? Actually, so they must change tyres, so it's going to be a 30-second stop at least, and that's if they hit their marks bang on. We have seen drivers make slight mistakes, miss their marks, and unfortunately the pit stop won't start until the pit crew push you back to exactly where they want. Boothby's dropped, Kelt's dropped, and I think, to be fair, that was pretty much bang on, second for second, well, 10th for 10th, and those boys are now back out on track, and nothing's changed apart from the fact they're going to race now till the flag, and Boothby's tactics of applying that pressure out the window now. He's just going to have to go for it if he wants the win. If he wants the win, because does he need the win for the championship? Probably not.
But you know what? You and I both know what a racer like George Boothby will want to do. He'll want to win. He'll want to stick, pardon the pun, but he'll want to stick the knife in and twist it. That's what he, you know, the thing is that, now, that was Isaac having a bit of he was a bit crossed up there, going through the Kleinish chicane there, coming out of the exit. I think the Audi just had a bit too much wobble on the back end, and good save, I must admit. But yeah, it's about now. I mean, I know how competitive both Boothby and Van der Kelt are, and you put them in a battle for the lead of the race, they are going to do everything that is humanly possible within their power. But going wide like that and touching the dust on the grass there, George Boothby, is not what you need to do right now.
No, absolutely not. It needs to keep it level-headed, and somebody who's slightly better than informed than us in the chat, Dr. Block, thank you very much, mate. He said just a few moments ago that it is the last lap of fuel for Boothby, so he thought Niels was going to go longer, and then he quickly also typed or not. So he knew it was Boothby's last lap of fuel, so he was coming in. So yeah, Boothby obviously just fueled for that 30-minute stint, more or less. So Trollas has said in chat also, I'm pretty sure Boothby would take second gladly. It's all about the championship after all. Yeah, I agree. I think he would take it gladly. But when you're out on track, does that always happen? You know, is the racer instinct out there that you want to be on that top step? To be fair, I would put my money on the fact that Boothby will only take that lead away from Kekelt if Kekelt makes a mistake or his pace drops significantly. I don't think we'll see Boothby attacking relentlessly, because I do think he will be thinking of the championship, and I do think he will be relatively happy to bring it home in second place if he needs to, you know, if that's what he's going to achieve tonight. Having said that, he's as close as he's ever been to Kekelt. After they first came out of the pits there, he dropped back a little bit while they got everything up to operating temperature, but he's now right back on the back of Kkel, and I think he's going to be very happy to apply the pressure, but I don't think we'll be seeing him make any sort of dives or sends. I think it'll just be a case of apply pressure. If a mistake's made, he'll take the position. If not, he will come home in second place very happily.
Yeah, I pretty much side with that, Steve. I just think at the end of the day that, yeah, a championship is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And what you don't want happening is two people like Niels van der Kekkel and George Boothby who know each other incredibly well. They'll know each other's driving skills to literally the umpteenth, like, slight subtle nuance. So it is just dependent on what they decide to do. I mean, the gap between them is just over just over half a second now as Simon Zimmerman goes out for another lap. So at the moment, that Nissan looks like it's fueled rather heavily. Now that fuel is starting to burn off. He's got a 26.2 second gap over Arvin Nam in the number 5 Team Rocket, the Furious Lamborghinis. So Zimmerman's doing a very interesting strategy call, but the thing that I've now seen is that Niels van der Kekkel is effectively 44.3 seconds off of the Nissan. They've got back marker traffic now coming into their 2020 vision line right now. So it's all about what Zimmerman does, and Zimmerman's running in the 1:29.2s. Van der Kekkel 1:28.2 last time around. Boothby 1:27.9. They now cross the line on this particular occasion. 1:27.265. And Van der Kekkel was purple in sector 1. Boothby purple in sector 2. These two are pushing now. Obviously dependent on the length of the pit lane and where Zimmerman would factor in terms of where his car would be. As long as he nails that pit stop, that's fine, but that will still put him third behind these two that are literally, they're working. You can see that they are working together. No one's making any particularly big mistakes. Okay, there might be some slight errors, but it's not the end of the world for both George Boothby or Niels van der Kekkel.
No, absolutely not. Like I say, I mean, you know, like we've said, Boothby is he's in a commanding position in the championship. He doesn't need to win every race now. If he just comes home on the podium, that will do him. And Kekkel, who's running second in the championship, a win tonight would do him the world of good. Not so much to close the gap on Boothby, but to extend the gap to third place and secure his second place in the championship. These two guys race together. They know each other very well. We're not going to see any silly moves, as Dr. Locke points out in the chat. Yeah, we know that they are good buddies and they race a lot, and we wouldn't expect silly moves from drivers of this standard on anybody anyway. But like I say, I think we'll only see the lead change if there is a mistake from Kekkel and a forced error. Not to say Boothby won't try to apply as much pressure as possible, but at this moment in time it's very difficult because they're coming up against quite a few back markers and having to negotiate around them at some awkward parts of the track. It has to be said, you know, not the easiest places to overtake. They are both working their way through now as Boothby takes his position up again, up behind Kekkel once again, and follows him through the chicane and up the hill for another lap.
Yeah, they're both now in second and third with Arvin Nam now in the pit lane. Simon Zimmerman's on lap number 26 in the Nissan, and the good thing is that he is still keeping himself out there, and he's got I'm just wondering what the gap is between him and Niels van der Kekkel, because you can there see Sam Spenkelink. You were right on this one, where Sam Spenkelink from the Netherlands started down towards the bottom part of the top 20, and he's up into P10, and he's closing in on Koen Septer and Piet Varnier. So this could be a pretty good result for Sam Spenkelink. You know, probably maybe even he could even get to Malsharek, who isn't that far adrift. And now this is a four-way scrap for 7th position as we're close to heading into the final third of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Sem's done a masterful job of recovering from 21st or 2nd, wherever it was he dropped down to, after what has to be said a poor qualifying. But he's there again now, and like you said, this is a 3-4, almost 4-way battle that could see Sem jump all the way up to 6th or 7th place if things fall his way. But he's definitely closed up to Scepter very, very quickly. And I think we're seeing Scepter defend very hard as they come into the hairpin. Sem's going to try send it round the outside and force the Audi tight, get the drive out, and this is it now. If he can get the drive out of here, he is going to be on the inside for that final chicane, but I'm not sure if he's got far enough along the inside and whether the Audi's got the legs, but he has. He's in the braking zone on the inside and he's got that position. If he can just hold it tight on the second part, onto the start finish straight now, get the drive out, and he's got the position, so that's another position for Sem, up to 9th place. Very, very tidy, great driving from both.
Yeah, lots of racing room and racing respect given between the number 64 of Dark Sky Racing, Sem Spenkelink, and Kuhn Scepter in the number 32 from Rocky Racing. And now the next driver on Sem Spenkelink's hot list is Piet Vanier in the car just up ahead, the number 34 Audi. And whilst Spenkelink and Scepter were battling away, Malshrek has actually gotten away from Vanier to the tune of about 1.7 seconds, as here are the two leaders. Boothby, as now Zimmerman is in the pits. Van der Kelt still hanging on to the lead. Boothby trying to apply the pressure, looks one way, then the other. Now going into the next double right. So you've got the likes of Stedenbach now, they're coming through Canal, and then it'll be a third right-hander on the bounce before they go into the back straightaway heading towards the Kleine Chicane, and they've got a couple of warring Lexuses. Will make that 3 of them up ahead. But Van der Kelt still holding on with 18 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock to go. As there's the move from Sem Spenkelink. He's done exactly the same, but this time it was on the inside of Kuhn Scepter, and you can actually see that, that was on Kuhn Scepter the previous lap. Now Piet Vanier, so Sem Spenkelink up into 8th. Now the hunt for the Lamborghini of Christian Malshrek can really begin for the number 64 in the Porsche.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great move from the Porsche, and the Porsche is very, very strong on the corner exit, obviously with the engine configuration and the great big fat rear end of a Porsche. It gets the power down onto the track, and it's got some awesome torque figures. It can really punch its way out of corners, and there's not many cars on the track that match it. If you can get the traction and you get it squatted down correctly and get the drive away. So Sem using that Porsche to all its strengths there to get up to 8th place. He's gained 2 positions in 2 laps, so he's really making progress, and it'll be interesting to see how that 3.5 second deficit sort of comes down as the laps go by. I'll certainly be keeping an eye on it and try to bring you the Sem Spenkelink recovery drive as he tries to make another move, hopefully in the next few laps.
A Spenkelink update. That's what we call it. But no, Sem as always providing some great action here as Niels van der Kelt and George Boothby. Still pretty much even Stevens. This has been, I wouldn't say it's like a stalemate that's been enforced. I think it's just a stalemate that they've decided, well, look, let's agree to agree and let's keep it nice and clean. We want to both have significant points for the championship, and also they've got to look at the team effort as well, because it's not just about racing for yourself and having every single winners. Yourself, Dr. Clark, myself, we've all said this evening that a championship is a marathon, not a sprint. We've still got another 4 races to go, and if there was something to happen to both Boothby and Van der Kelt, we could have seen a very, very different situation in terms of the championship standings post-race. But they've kept it rather clean. They haven't had many dramas. They've had the odd occasional whoopsies in terms of minor moments, I might add, but they've kept it rather clean and they're doing exactly what they need to do. But now Malshrek coming under fire. I've just seen, there he is through the Kleine Chicane, through Sacrament, shelling down the dip into Buta. Go these two, and Spenkelink now senses a bit of Lamborghini blood in the water, because now he's going for 7th position. And to be honest with you, Arvin Nahm is not that far ahead of this duo. He's about 5.2 seconds ahead, So if Spenkelink gets past Malshrek imminently, then he can go after Arvin Nam and go for P6.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the lap times he's doing, he is lapping faster than Nan as well. So I think if he can get past this Lamborghini without too much hassle, I think he's got enough time in the 15 minutes to close that gap and actually gain the position. It'd be interesting to see if he can get that 6th place, and indeed if 6th place is where it's finished, because Workman isn't that far ahead of 6th place.
No, that's so you look at it from this perspective. 5.6 seconds between Malshrek and Nam. Then it's an additional 2.5 seconds, so that makes it 8.1. 9.2 seconds between well, let's call it 9.3 seconds between Werkman and Spenkelink. But then look, Patrick Vance is only like 4/10. Look, half a second. I think Spenkelink could be on at best for a top 4 finish, but he's got to get out in front, and that's not what you want happening coming out of the Kleine Chicane. But Sem Spenkelink, oh no, he goes straight on.
Oh, commentator's curse. You've done it
my
now, Alex.
goodness.
I'm reporting you for that one. Steward's inquiry against the commentator there.
This noise is going to say everything. Slap wrist. But I mean, the thing is that could have been. I mean, that could have been actually before I said anything. But yeah, coming through the Kleine Chicane, you said about those curves being aggressive, and that there just proved your point, because I mean, Malshrek was going all defensive. The rear haunches of that Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo being made wide as possible, and Malshrek had the right to defend. Spenkelink tried to do his level best. He got that car like properly. And the biggest thing now is that Spenkelink is tumbling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not. It wasn't great for Sem. Absolutely fantastic drive as always, but Boothby now again applying pressure on Kekelt. 2/10 behind. You don't need a time to see how close they are. He's literally glued to the back end of that car. He's putting the pressure on, but it has to be said, Kekelt having a dominant drive really. He's not put a foot wrong, and he hasn't had to defend very hard. He's as I said before, he's driving his line. He's doing what he needs to do, and he's driving, very, very well, impeccable really. He's putting decent lap times in. He's not buckling under any sort of pressure, and Boothby is one heck of a driver to be putting pressure on. We all know how quick he is, and we all saw his qualifying time, and as he looks there, gets a much better run through the chicane, although he got unsettled on the second part of the curve there, which maybe just lost him a little bit of momentum, a little bit of drive. But again, Kekelt's just not really flustered by any of it, driving his line, putting the car where he needs to get the fastest line, not necessarily the most defensive, and they're just coming up against some more back markers. Kekelt's just flashing the lights, letting him know they're there, but this shouldn't be too much of a problem. I might have expected the back marker to just maybe let them through the chicane there, but maybe down this straight now as indeed he just peels off to the left, and he's going to let them both through, and they can resume their battle and almost start another lap, starting the 32nd lap I believe, which is the laps are racking up tonight, but obviously it is a relatively short lap. It's under 1 minute 30, so we're really piling the laps on. But Boothby is starting to show his nose a bit more. I won't say he's frustrated. I think he knows that he's got literally less than 12 minutes left. There's nothing really else to assist him now. He's just got to put the pressure on and keep the pressure on, and he's showing the nose. He's trying to fill Kekelt's mirrors as full of his lights as he can, just trying to distract him. He's trying to force that mistake, force that late break, force that run wide, just anything that is going to leave the door open for him to stick his nose of that 666 Ferrari through and gain that first place. Because we've said second place will do for him, but if he can get that top step, he will take it.
Yeah, and he'll take it without hesitating either. We've covered just over 80 miles of this 2.492 mile circuit. It's just over 4 kilometres, or 4.011, so we've done nearly 130 kilometres of this race circuit. It's quite a lot when you think about it, but yeah, I think now you can see how much closer Boothby is getting in certain specific braking areas, like we saw just then. And it's, you know, we know for a fact that they're one of the biggest rules in racing is never take out your teammate. We've got a yellow flag out on the circuit at the moment, which has briefly been retracted. So that now just showcases how difficult it's become. Pretty much everyone has pitted. Everyone up to 14th has had at least a lap put on them. I'm just going to have a look and see what else has been. So, yeah, Tim van der Meer retired. Dave Jr., after that incredible battle, he's retired as well. Nard Cox, also in the pits. Sem Spenkelink is down in 31st position. And he's ahead of teammate Nard Cox. Who would be saying that? Oh, Matas Marques gets a drive-through penalty. So the Slovakian up in 14th position. That will put him out of the top 20. Yeah, so we do have about 3 drivers that have... We had all the previous retirements as well. So Sorrentino, you know, you also had Aaron van Drooinen as well. That didn't really get very far in this race, but it just has been absolutely metronomic from these drivers. You know, Van der Kerkelt got the initial advantage on lap 1, coming out of the Kleine Chicane and through the Sacrament Schelling. You know, he just timed it, and we know for a fact that between 2 such high caliber drivers, the slightest amount of rubbing isn't going to be something that they're going to report to the stewards. They're going to go, well, you know what, we were side by side. We both thought, well, yeah, that might very much happen, and on this particular occasion, it did.
Yeah, absolutely, and as we see Kerkelt and Boothby sort of, I won't say settling for where they are, there's still less than a second between them. We're seeing Scepter and Malshrek having a bit of a battle up here. I think it's sorry, not Scepter, Malshrek and Vanier having a bit of a battle now, and it's Lamborghini against Audi Power, as they're sort of pretty much the closest battle we have on track at the moment.
Yeah, also there's another battle that's pretty close as well. 18th and 19th. That's between Bas van Melis and Joris Everleens. So that's Lexus versus Honda. But then Ron Eiserich is closing in on that 3-way scrap there. That 2-way scrap, which will soon become a 3-way scrap. And Eiserich is about 0.7 of a second behind Everleens. Van der Kraan also closing on now. Raimondi. Last time's semi-pro winner at Barcelona, now P4 in semi-pro. He's within a second and a half of a Piet Vanjer, as there is Malshrek battling away with Vanjer. So you're going to now see hopefully these other 2 come into shot. So there was Raimondi, and Raimondi will be bringing along with him about 0.8 of a second behind. That's Martin van der Kraan in the 2:53. So this quartet round out the top 11. We have 7 minutes and 10 seconds still to go, and Niels van der Kerkelt has just gone purple in sector 1. He's got George Boothby just over 0.6 off of his rear bumper on in that Ferrari. As Malshrek looking to do his level best, because he's got to try and get past Koen Scepter, and then that will mean that Piet Vanjer will also have to get past if he wants to get up the order.
Yeah, absolutely, but he has settled down at the front now. I mean, just testament to these lads, Kerkelt and Boothby. You know, they're going round and they're still lapping within, you know, a 1/10 or 2 of their sort of personal best times. So they're still powering the laps in at this late stage in the race, still putting the times in, as are these guys back here. You know, they're not running maybe quite as fast as the guys up at the front, but they're still putting in an awesome pace, putting on an awesome show and an awesome battle, with just 6 minutes left on the clock and still racing very, very hard for every single position.
Yeah, we are getting towards the tail end of this race, and Boothby looks to extend that gap in the championship standings. The gap is now half a second between him in second position and Niels van der Kerkelt as we approach the last 5 3/4 minutes of this race, as Giorgio Raimondi now closing on Christian Malscherek, who has dropped away from Piet Vanjer. So the Audi looks a little bit stronger than the Lamborghini at this particular moment, as Malscherek goes bumping over the curbs on the second phase of the Kleine Chicane, but Martin van der Klaan also factoring in, so Raimondi has to try and get past Malscherek if he wants to get the business done on trying to get past Piet Vanjer, but Vanjer is now 1.6 seconds ahead of the Slovakian. So we'll look at the top 5 in each respective class. So with 5 minutes on the clock, Van der Kerkelt leading from Boothby, with Zimmerman rounding at the top 3 for Pro. 5th on the road and 4th in Pro, it is Arvin Naam, and Koen Sebter in the 32 rounds out the top 5 in Pro and is 7th on the road. Top 5 in semi-pro, Patrick Vance looking for his second win of this season, following on from the season opener a few weeks ago. Then it's Dennis Werkman, Piet Vanjer, Giorgio Raimondi, and then we've got the 313 of Patrick Treffers in the Nissan. So 2 Nissans in the top 12 overall, but I think that Van der Kerkelt and Boothby here, Steve, we keep on saying it, but now with just over 4 minutes to go, I think now that Van der Kerkelt and Boothby are going to keep it as it is. They are not going to cause any problems for each other. They're going to make sure that they get across the line, and then they can just sort of talk about it and say, oh, it's a pretty consistent race, you kept me on my toes, didn't you?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those races they do talk about because they've run pretty close the whole way around. So it's definitely been a good battle for them. As we know, Boothby's pushed hard. He doesn't need to win, so maybe, if the need to win was there, he might have pushed even harder. But he's certainly not giving Kerkelt an easy time of it, as we can see on screen now. He's still very, very close, and he's been following like that for most of this race. It has to be said, he's dropped back every now and again, slight mistakes or just certain areas of the track where Kerkelt is ever so slightly stronger, but that probably comes down to they'll be running slightly different setups. Maybe one's got more aero than the other, who knows. But all in all, it's been a good race. They've given us a good show, and they've run a very consistent and close race, it has to be said.
Yeah, so just 3 minutes to go, so this will be the penultimate lap of this race, well, pretty much, unless they cross the line with about 3 seconds on the clock to go. And Niels van der Kerkelt has pretty much since the exit of the Kleine Chicane on the very first lap has led the race, and despite George Boothby possibly looking to get the upper hand by pitting in exactly the same time as Van der Kerkelt with just under 30 minutes on the clock, because the pit stop windows are not dictated here at SRHI. It is one mandatory pit stop here on GT3. GT4 next week heads to this very circuit, so from the full-blown racing machines we go to production-based next week, and then we'll have the 8 hours of Kyle Army next Saturday, which will be the 24th of April. But it has been a pretty dominant display from these 2 Ferraris at the front of the field. Both myself and Steve Proudy, we were very much of the opinion that it is about grunt. It is also about agility. And with the Ferrari, the 3.9 litre twin turbo V8 engine pushing out 700 newton meters of torque from its mid-engined rear-wheel drive drivetrain setup. So we're going to be very, very close here to crossing the line. Now, I need to know, Steve, this is the penultimate lap now, isn't it? Because they went across the line.
I was going to say, I don't think they're going to lift. I'll keep an eye on the relatives, but I don't think they're going to lift to make this a particularly slow lap. I think they're probably going to cross the line with maybe a second or 2 to go. But who knows? They don't need to lift much. I think it was pretty much on 1 minute 30 more or less as they went over, and they have been lapping in the 1:28.6s, so they only need to lose a second and a half. But does Kerkelt want to lift to lose that with Boothby only 7/10 behind him? Nah, probably not. So I think we will see another lap. I think they're going to push and push, and at the moment it's Boothby, believe it or not, is 2/10 up on his personal best, so he's definitely still pushing. Kekelt's pretty much matching his previous best, and you can see that gain for Boothby's brought him right up on the back of Kekelt again, and he's applying the pressure, just driving in the bumper, and he's not going to give Van Kekelt any chance to ease up to try and count that clock down. He is going to have to endure another full lap of pressure. As a back marker just makes a little bit of a mistake there, but gets out of the way, no harm, no foul. It looks like they've got past quite nicely there, but it's looking very, very good for Niels van der Kekelt at the moment, and he's done what he needs to do, and it has to be said, you know, credit where credit's due. He's driven a great race so far, and they have crossed the line with round about 4 seconds to go when they crossed the line, so this is the final lap, and Boothby, as you can see there, he's dropped a second back. I think that's it. I think that's more or less game over. I think we're looking at the finishing position now as we see it on the screen.
Well, also in the meantime, Patrick Vance started down in 14th position. Now, he was the 5th highest out of the semi-pro qualifiers, and on the final lap he is now 4th. And that's an impressive drive, considering the facts of like Tom van der Meer, Dennis Werkman, Jordi Bakker, and Bart Sverink. And Bart Sverink down in 21st position. And you can now see there's Simon Zimmermann, our 3rd place driver. Best result for the Germans so far this season, and he got the jump on Nard Cox, having started in 4th position alongside the Porsche. But the timer has struck 0, and there are just a handful of corners to go, because George Boothby will still have 3 victories to his tally, but it will be the 3rd different winner out of 5 races so far here in Season 3, as the number 47, the Flying Dutchman, Niels van der Kekelt, wins here at Circuit Zolder, with Boothby just 0.3 of a second adrift. Raimondi takes 3rd in semi-pro, but here we concentrate our efforts on Science Friction Racing's number 21 of Germany's Simon Zimmermann, who started 4th alongside Nard Cox. A difficult race for not just Cox, but also Spenkelink. But Zimmermann has kept it. You know, he's had a very, very lonely race for the majority of it. But he comes out of the final corner, out of Jackie Ickx, and Zimmermann will hit the final step on the rostrum. A great job for him, flashing the lights in celebration. And it will be 2 race victories in semi-pro. Patrick Vance in the 777 from Pulse Motorsport started 14th on the grid. That's the outside of row 7. He gains 10 positions, and he actually wins here in semi-pro. Arvin Nahm 1.1 seconds adrift, and if I'm honest with you, Dennis Werkman, who started in front of Patrick Vance, will take 2nd in semi-pro, and that's 2 Lex. Well, hang on a minute. Dennis Werkman just took 5th position, courtesy of a moment there for Arvin Nahm, but Niels van der Kekelt there becomes the 3rd different winner out of 5 different races here for the pro class. And Patrick Vance, 10 positions gained, finishes P4 and takes a semi-pro victory here tonight at Zolder, Steve. What a fantastic race it was.
Yeah, it was great, and you know, before I get the messages, sorry to the guys that we didn't cover tonight, because you know, we always cover the closest battles, and the closest battle tonight was those 2 guys at the front. We picked up on a few other drives. You know, I mean, our friend Sem Spenkelink was making a good drive after having a bit of a poor start, and then he made that mistake through I think was it the Kleiners chicane, which forced him off onto the grass, and then he just didn't recover to pull it back left, and he went off into the wall somewhat unceremoniously. Patrick Wants, as you said there, great drive from him. You know, Zimmermann, I mean, he hardly got any airtime, but that was because pretty much from lap 2 he was out on his own. He didn't need the airtime because he was just on his own and he was doing what he needed to do. He navigated the traffic well, and he brought that home in a fantastic 3rd place for him. He will be very, very happy with that 3rd place, I am sure of that.
Yeah, very much the case. We are waiting to see if we can get any drivers for any interviews. I'm not too sure if that's going to happen tonight because they've been practicing hard, and also some of them will now be concentrating their focus onto GT4 next week. But I think, there were some standout drives. There really, really were. I think, a real shame for Nard Cox and Sam Spanklink, the two from Dark Sky Racing. They had a tough time. The Porsche was looking pretty good. I mean, Nard Cox qualified P3, and then, it all went Pete Tong from there. I just can't. I think there's two drivers that, for me, well, it looks like actually we do have a couple of drivers. Shall we bring them in, Steve?
Yes, I shall drag them down into the commentary booth now, and hopefully they will be susceptible to some of your questions, Alex.
Well, let's get things underway, shall we? Third different winner out of 5 races. Congratulations, Niels van der Kekelt, Mr. 47. Nice, interesting battle between you and George in the first few corners, then getting through the Kleine Chicane. A little bit of rubbing, but you got through, and from there it was... I think it was pretty much a case of just keeping it on the track for you and George, wasn't
it? Yeah, definitely. I knew right at the start, first of all, let's take a moment to appreciate George's lap in qualifying, because he did a 26.5. Now, I've seen a lot of alien laps, but a 26.5, good lord, I was honestly shocked. I was absolutely shocked to see that lap. So, hats off to that lap. And, I just knew in the race there was only one chance for me to win this, and that was get past in lap 1. Because otherwise, well, you've seen what happens when you're behind someone. I think George poked his nose in once, because I made a little mistake at the final chicane. But apart from that, it was just, he was just constantly 0.2, 0.3 behind me, because that's really about as close as you can get on Zolder. So it really was a matter of just, making sure I don't make any mistakes, which, well, if you've seen me drive before, that is already pretty hard for me. But I managed to do it. And, hey, I wasn't even that worried about George. I was mostly worried about getting a drive-through for track limits, because I was on 3 warnings fairly early. On my outlap, after the pit stop, I was on 3 warnings. So after that, I decided, okay, let's not take any risks whatsoever. I'm just gonna, drive around the curves, basically, in the chicanes. And, luckily, it worked out pretty well. So, very happy.
George, I need to come to you now. We're going to go back to this quali lap. I mean, you and Niels were like, literally, what was it? Niels, I think, in practice, decided to put in a lap that was a 1/10 and a half quicker. You guys were no more than about 1/100th apart. How on God's green earth did you wrestle nearly 4/10 out of that Ferrari round here and like literally put the cat amongst the pigeons, especially with Niels?
Yeah, that was probably the best lap I've ever done in quali, like anywhere. I don't know how it happened, like, and that's with 20 kg of ballast as well. Like, I just could not believe it. Like, I know I had a bit of time in my lap initially, but yeah, it just happened, and I don't know.
You're speechless, buddy. That's what it is, isn't it? Come on, be honest.
It was just mental. I just don't understand.
But for you, I mean, obviously, George, this, that's now 3 victories, 2 second places. You go to Spa in a couple of weeks' time with, I would say, probably a healthy championship lead. I think it's just about being consistent. Myself and Steve discussed this at great length during the broadcast that, you don't have to win every race, but obviously you, Niels, everybody on the grid, you're all racers, you want to win at the end of the day, but it's still a pretty good result nevertheless, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously I always want to try and go for the win if I can. I feel like there's a chance I could have got the win today, but Niels just pulled a absolute insane move off the start. Like that was one of the best moves I've ever seen on this track, to be honest. And it was done on me. But no, it was just amazing. I tried everything I could to get past every opportunity I had. I tried to poke my nose, but it's just really hard. And this track is very easy to make a mistake on. So I was banking on Niels making a slight mistake, made the odd little one, but nothing major. So there was just nothing I can do. It was just too consistent for me.
Well, Niels, George, thank you very much for talking to us, and we look forward to seeing you at Spa-Francorchamps in a couple of weeks' time. Well done tonight, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Alex. Have a good night.
Yeah, take care.
Take care, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, we're going to go to our final driver on the rostrum. So, congratulations, Simon Zimmerman. A really good drive there, Simon. Starting 4th on the grid. Got past Nard Cox on the initial phase of the start and just brought it home. The Nissan seemed to be rather at home here at Zolder, didn't it?
Thank you. It was much better than Barcelona. I kept out of trouble as you tried to keep out of trouble as usual. I tried to put the car on the inside in the first few turns against, I think, Nard Cox in a Porsche, and then after the chicane, he sort of like disappeared and I had quite a gap. So I was very fortunate and could do a very, very boring race, sort of like being on my own all the time, and drove it home. The Nissan did quite well. Thank you.
No, so obviously Spa-Francorchamps, Nissan sometimes can go pretty well around there. What are your thoughts ahead of 2 weeks' time from now?
I'm really curious about the times like George and Niels are gonna do, because obviously they're like really fast, and when I got close to them at Zolder, I just thought like hopefully I'm not gonna get involved in something like not getting too close. I think the most competitive track for the Nissan actually is Spa-Francorchamps. I mean, like, I'm really looking forward to it, and let's see how it works out.
Well, Simon, congratulations on your 3rd place finish here at Zolder, and all the very best of luck in a couple of weeks. Well done tonight.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Okay, well, we've got them here with us, so we're now going to speak to our top 2 in semi-pro. The first driver of which has already had a race victory, started 14th, finished 4th overall. The next one started in 13th and finished 5th overall. And what's more, both of them are in the Lexus. Congratulations, Patrick Funston, Dennis Bergman. Guys, it could have been ever so different with the likes of Bart Sverink, Jordi Bakker, and Tim van der Meer in front. Patrick, did you expect that you were going to be that far up the order at the finish line, first of all?
Oh, really not. It was. I had a decent quality in practice. The last few weeks, I had so much trouble with Zolder, and today it came all together. My teammate Tom had some setup changes that worked very well, and I had a good qualifying. And the first lap, the first corner, I did a little bit easy. Sam came past, and then after the first chicane, there was the carnage, and I managed to go through. And then I was stuck behind my teammate Jordi, and he did some mistakes and drive through and stuff. So I was then 5th overall, 4th overall, and keep going. After the pit stop, I think I did I put on an old set from qualifying, so I had serious, really no grip. That's why Dennis came close, but he did a mistake in the last chicane. But if the race was 2 or 3 laps longer, he would certainly have passed me, and I'm really happy with that victory. It was a good race.
It was a long time coming as well. So Patrick, congratulations for tonight. Well done, and good luck at Spa in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So Dennis, also another good showing from yourself. Starting ahead of Patrick, but ending up, what was it at the end? Probably the best part of 1.6 seconds behind. Still showed how good the Lexus actually was around here at Zolder, wasn't it?
Really, yeah. I think you have to drive the Lexus to be in the semi-pro class, that's for sure. Congrats to Patrick, he did a fantastic job. Would never have expected to be this far up the grid at the end of the day. But yeah, it was a good race. I avoided the carnage first, second corner, and after the first chicane as well. Had some tough battles with Dave at the beginning as well. But yeah, I'm happy. I would never have been expected to be 5th, 6th, was it?
Yeah, it was 5th overall in the race and 2nd in semi-pro. So I know for a fact, just by judging how you're talking right now, Dennis, that you've got a very, very big smile on your face right now after what's been what was, you know, when we saw, myself and Steve, we saw that the server times were local time. I thought this could get interesting, and both you and Patrick weathered the nighttime storm without there being any rain or any excessive wind. Thank goodness, unlike the weather I experienced in Belgium this past weekend in real life. But yeah, well done tonight to you guys. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Spa-Francorchamps. Well done tonight.
Thanks. Maybe I'll be here again. I know. I will never get used to this.
Well, fingers crossed, Dennis?
Yes. Bye-bye.
So a big thank you there to Dennis Verkman and Patrick Vanst, our runner-up and winner in the semi-pro class here tonight at Zolder for the 5th round out of 9 for Season 3 GT3 Sprint on Sim Racing Hub International. Steve, just really good to hear from the top 3 in pro and also the top 2 in semi-pro. A lot of smiles for miles, I take it.
Yeah, that was a happy interview room, wasn't it? I mean, nobody was really there was nothing to be disappointed about in there. Some great battles, as we heard the drivers, complimenting each other. Niels and George, they're very happy with the positions. George saying, he tried his best. I think he tried his best, but kept his neck wound in a little bit, shall we say. He had his a little bit in reserve. I think if he'd have needed that race win for a championship, I think we might have seen him push a little bit harder. But it's all about the big picture now. I think he knew second place was a good result for him. He's got Spa next. He'll probably go well there. I mean, find me a track that George Boothby doesn't go well at. I mean, we've yet to find one, haven't we? But good to see that he's been kept honest now for 2 weeks in a row. 2 rounds in a row, Barcelona and now Zolder. He hasn't had it all his own way. He's had to settle for a couple of second places now. So when you say settle for second places, it's not bad going, is it? But they're not wins. It's not as dominant as we first feared, shall we say, it might be when he set off and won the opening 3 rounds. So, but no, good racing all round. Very, very respectful racing as always. Some good racing through the midfield as well. Couple of good drives to point out, and I think there could have been some the guys that probably will be disappointed will be the drivers like Sem, who made that mistake after potentially he could have been definitely back up into the top 6 after a bit of a nightmare of a start to the race. So he'll be one driver that's disappointed with his performance tonight. But knowing Semi will bounce back at Spa, as will the rest of the field, and we'll be on for probably another cracking qualifying session. Maybe with another George Boothby flying rocket lap that'll blow everybody out. Yeah, absolutely. The men in black will be investigating. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm looking forward to some good racing, but we've got lots of good racing to come. As you mentioned, we've got the GT4s next week. We've got the 8 hours of Kyalami coming up. SRHI, very, very busy community when it comes to racing. Got lots going on. You need to hit the subscribe button. Like the video if you liked what you saw. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more of this fantastic action. And just make sure you tune in next time, because I think it's going to be awesome, Alex.
Yeah, so dankjewel België once, not twice, because we got the second part of our Belgian doubleheader in just 2 weeks' time at the iconic Spa-Francorchamps. Just over 7 kilometres based in the Ardennes forest, around about 100 kilometres south east of this circuit. That's where we head on the 4th of May. Join Steve and Tim Fulbrook this time next week at this very same circuit Zolder, on the 20th of April. And then we have our second race within the Mixed Endurance Championship, the 8 hours of Kyalami, which is taking place next Saturday, the 24th of April. A big thank you to you all for watching. On behalf of my good friend and partner in crime this evening, and also our broadcast man as well, Steve Proudly, my name's Alex Goldschmidt. Thank you for watching Sim Racing Hub International. Join us again with Tim Fulbrook and Steve Proudly next week here at Zolder for GT4 Round 5 of Season 2 of the Sprint Championship. Thank you. Good night.